Good evening and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur Tottenham fans with your boy Dave and Jack and special guests Paul and Adrian, and also Brains will be joining us. He's just on his way home as well. So we have a good panel, a good chat this evening. We'll be counting down, obviously, the last 23 minutes of deadline day. We're not going to sign anybody else with 23 minutes to go. Brennan Johnson, everything is done. Dusted contract, signed, media stuff done. Announcement is imminent and on its way. So that does look like it'll be Tottenham's only signing today. I did say in that actually, earlier on in a couple of chats and that the fact that the Brennan Johnson deal has taken so long to be announced, I sort of knew it would be the only one in the door. Another disappointing transfer deadline day for Tottenham, in my opinion. But look, we'll see what everyone else has to say. So let us know. Do you think Tottenham have had a good or bad summer transfer window? And what's your thoughts? Has Ange Postecoglou been backed? Give us your rating on the transfer window, and also your thoughts on the likes of Dyer and Tanguy Ndombele, and maybe a couple of others refusing to take moves elsewhere today. So let us know your thoughts on all of that. But Jack, how are you, my man?
I'm all right, Dave. This is the squad. This is the squad we're going to have to get used to. The squad that we'll face, just have to reconcile with. I think there are some positives for sure. There are definitely some negatives that we'll get into at what could have been done and what should have been done. But at the end of the day, it's over now. It's been a pretty hectic week for you and I, Dave, especially. I'm in a way kind of glad on a personal end that that's over. I kind of wish that I could be going to bed, at night, dreaming of, all the beautiful center back signings that I wish we had made. That's sort of another thing that, I'll be kind of still a little bit sore about. But, tomorrow you just sort of wake up and you're just like, all right, this is what we got. This is what we have. And you just kind of push on from there. I think there's going to be a lot of moments this season where we're going to be kind of asking ourselves, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? And I think that all sort of leads to, where we could have done better in the transfer window. That's what we'll talk about today, Dave. We'll let it out to our heart's content. I'm not sure if there's really any sort of, last minute signings that are going to be happening for Spurs here or anybody. If anything that was going to happen, it looked like it was going to be Trevor Chalobah over at Chelsea. It felt like Spurs were actually going after the Chelsea players towards the end of the window, but we weren't able to secure either Gallagher or Chalobah. But yeah, Dave, I'm doing all right. I'm just reconciling with the team that we're going to get used to for these next 4 or 5 months here.
Yeah, we will. And, if the squad stays the same with Brennan Johnson's announcement, I think there's 3 players that, won't get registered. So we'll also have a discussion on who we think they will be as well. I'm guessing Alfie Whiteman will probably be one. He's out with a bit of a long-term injury, so I'm guessing he probably will end up being one. But look, we'll go down to you, Paul. Paul, how are you keeping this evening, my man?
Yeah, not bad. Bright and early here, Sydney morning. It's match day here. No more sleep. So I'm, even though the transfer window is fizzling out, I'm still pumped up because we've got a game on today.
Look at you, deadline day and a game day all in one. You're getting absolute spoiled. It's like Christmas, my man. Big up, Paul. And Adrian last but not,
It's a shit Christmas, but it's better than no Christmas, isn't it?
And last but not least, Adrian, my man, how are you keeping? First time
I'm
on, great
fine,
to have
thank you, David. I want to thank you and Jack for inviting me on your fantastic show, where I get a chance to talk to your knowledgeable Spurs membership. I mean, I've watched your show and followed your progress with keen interest. You've grown exponentially and justifiably so because, you put the effort in. So, I know you'll continue to grow and build on your achievements. And I'm sure that others will come and follow, and your membership will grow. It will continue to grow exponentially.
No, I appreciate that, my man. I really do appreciate it, and I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. And look, you're a guy that's been in the comments, and we've had some back and forth with comments and stuff like that. So it's great to finally get you on and hear some of your opinions, some of your great takes. So it's an honor to have you, my man. So I really appreciate it. But look, we're going to crack into it. We'll go through the incomings, the outgoings, etc., on what's happened today, and then we'll crack into a lot of the talking points that we have. Make sure, if you can, please smash the like. It'd be greatly appreciated. And your boy Dave's been up since like 8 o'clock this morning, all the way through transfer deadline day. We've been pumping out content all day long. This is the second live of the day, my third video of the day. So, guys, make sure you respect the hustle and smash that like. And feel free to throw in a super chat at any stage or grab a channel membership if you want to support what myself and Jack are doing here. But it's also a great way to get your thoughts in, your opinions there, and have a great conversation off the back of them. They always lead to great conversations. So feel free to do that if you want. Most importantly, we do understand times are tough out there at the minute with inflation. So just get your comments in as we go along, and we will bring them up as we go along. But look, Jack, I will hand it over to you, my man. Oh, I think your mic's gone, Jacko.
Oops, sorry. I said respect to Dave here, everybody. He's been working harder than pretty much Spurs have on deadline day. So everybody show Dave some love, show him some respect here. But let's go through the actual summer window. This is how it stands. This is where it will lie. The incomings, we'll start with those first. Mickey Van de Ven, a center back that we needed, was brought in. James Madison, the creative midfielder we needed, was brought in. Guglielmo Vicario, the goalkeeper we needed, was brought in. Manor Solomon as a left winger or winger option was brought in on a sort of a free transfer this season. Alejo Valise, somebody probably for the future, is brought in as a future striker. Ashley Phillips, not really sure what that sort of signing is. I think he's going to be a real talent for Spurs, but is he able to play in the here and now, or is he maybe more for the future? We'll find out later, probably throughout the season. He was brought in as a center back from Blackburn. And then we also have Brennan Phillips, who was just brought in today for a big whopping fee of looks to be around 47 million pounds or something around that. And he's probably going to be playing as a right winger or left winger. I think we'll get, sort of the boys' sort of thoughts on that signing in just a second here. In terms of the official outgoings, Dave, cover your ears. Your one and only, the one and only H. Kane sold for 100 million euros. Joe Rodon was sent on loan. Didn't look like it was a permanent, to my knowledge, of any type. Same thing with Jed Spence, also sent on loan to the same club. I do like the sort of double package that we've been doing with Jed Spence and Joe Rodon. We've been sending them to Rennes, now sending them to Leeds as, sort of a combo. Quite fun there. And then we also have Jaffa Tanganga sent on a loan, and it could be an obligation to buy if there are some conditions met. So I've heard over to Augsburg. And then Harry Winks has been sent to Leicester City for 11.6 million euros. I must say, probably one of the deals of the window on our end. And then Sergio Reguilon on a loan over to Manchester United. And I think it's been cleared up that might actually be a season-long loan, not some sort of loan that could be actually cut off in January. At least
quickly, Jack, Conor Gallagher and Trevor Chalobah staying at Chelsea. So that puts an end to all of our activity tonight.
Throw the knife through me, Dave. Lucas Moore at the end there on a free. I might as well just sort of start on the signing that might have happened today here. Dave, is that all right if I do that? Maybe just start with Brennan Johnson, the one that, happened today here. I'll go to you, Adrian Stroka, my friend. Brennan Johnson. I mean, it's not one that I think I've gotten a huge sort of astounding sort of a reaction from the fan base, but where do you lie on the signing? Are you a little underwhelmed, excited? Where are you on it?
It doesn't excite me enough to get me to jump out my seat as a player. When you look at the video of him, what I've seen, I mean, he's very fast with the ball and carrying the ball. What I like to see in players, I like to see like on videos, because they always look good in videos. What I look for is players with vision, who move the ball quickly, who can make things happen. Right? I don't see him making things happen. I've seen him miss loads of scoring chances. He's good on the ball. He does move the ball quickly, no doubt about that. Assists, I don't know. I haven't gone into stats, looked at it, but I know we've looked at him for a while. This is going back to Paratici. Like,
he scouted him when he was scouting Spence, Adrian.
David, for a lot of good signings. Now it's looking like Udogie, Sarr. Now they're all looking really good. So I'm not knocking Paratici, even if he's got a criminal background. but I mean, so I'm gonna have to go. We're gonna have to go with trust now, because he's now our player. I had his medical earlier, so we're gonna have to trust the guy. What didn't help like recently was he missed a sitter against Arsenal, which wasn't good. Us being Spurs fans, that isn't that good. So he doesn't pass my eye test. He does it in one respect. He moves the ball quickly. So I don't know. I mean, like obviously, like any player that comes to Spurs, I want them to do well. We all do, don't we? We all want a player that comes to Spurs to do well. So we'll see. But to his credit, in one season, he got 10 goals for Forest. Now, if that's a wide player playing across the middle of the midfield, a 10-goal strike rate is exceptional, because like a 1 in 4 strike rate is always considered to be a very good strike rate for a midfield player come wide player anyway. For a number 9, you want it to be 1 in 3. If it's 1 in 2 like a Kane or more like a Haaland, then like you're really like thrilling yourself. You're in ecstasy, right? Yeah. So now, being positive, among a better squad of players, he should do even better. And my feeling with Brennan Johnson is the same with Son, with Charlison, Decky, with a more attack-minded system. Bear in mind that we played under Conte, it's more like an 8-3. Forget the wing-backs, hate that term anyway, but like an 8-3. And prior to that, when it was a 4-2-3-1, it was more a 7-4 attack, a setup for attacking, right? Under Angie's system, those three, and even Brennan Johnson, I don't know whether he's going to play him as a ball-carrying number 8, whether he's going to play wide left, wide right, or as a central striker. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of the player, but he seems to be very versatile. We'll see. But under Angie's system, I'd expect Brennan Johnson, and I know I've gone off tack a bit with the other three, to do even better than under the negative systems we've had to suffer with, and watch the dross, absolute dross we've had to watch under the last three managers.
The word you brought up there, Adrian, that I feel like a lot of Spurs fans have mentioned plenty is trust, right? Trust in this signing, trust that Ange, this is the one he's identified, and we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Do you think that's the theme of this sort of signing here, Paul? Or, I mean, you're the man who trusts Ange more than anybody. So if this is the guy that he's identified, right, that's what the fan base need to do here is trust what Ange has picked.
Yeah, I've seen reports, and who knows if they're true or not. But if the reports are true that this is Ange's number one pick, then I think it's got to be good news. I trust Ange's judgment, and if that's his guy, that's his guy. He must have seen something in him. It's not just the way he plays; it's probably his attitude as well. And I saw that one of Brennan Johnson's factors in joining the club was having a quick chat with Ange, and I like to hear that. It's happened a few times this window. I think that bodes well. I think it bodes well. So, could always do with, with fans, we always want more. But I think if I was my own feelings about this window, it's been all right. It's been all right. We've got a solid base. It's a good, solid start to a whole new regime. And, I'm just excited to see what the boys can do between now and January, because then we all go through this rubbish again for a month in the winter days, the short days, the cold nights. But I'm kind of all right with the whole thing. So, we'll see how we go, right?
Just take yourself away from the mindset of the Ange PR team that you're one of the presidents of here, Paul. If it were a different manager, let's say it was a different manager. Let's say it was Arne Slot or somebody that we had, and we signed Brennan Johnson. Let's say it was Brennan Johnson that Arne Slot signed. Would you be underwhelmed? Not that excited? Well,
where would you be? I don't know if a different manager would be going for the same players. That's the thing. So, I think Ange's judgment is the best in the world. So, if it was Arne Slot doing it, I'd still be looking up at Celtic with green eyes, thinking, when's Ange coming down?
Yeah.
So,
good answer.
Yeah. No, I trust Ange. That's what it comes down to. I'm excited.
I think when it comes down to is it Ange's first choice, I think there's a couple of things we have to understand. First of all, we've got to understand the reason why we're at Brennan Johnson is because he's homegrown. That's the massive driving factor behind this deal. You look at it's something I've spoke about for a long time, right? The quality of our homegrown players, and when you actually look at it, a lot of them is actually a part of the deadwood. You've got Alfie Whiteman, Brandon Austin. You've got Fraser Forrester 1 year left on his deal. You've got Skip. You've got Ben Davies, right? The only good one we actually have is Madison. So, we had no option but to go for homegrown players today. And I said this last night. I told people, expect only homegrown players to come in here tomorrow. It's what's going to happen. You could foresee it coming from a mile away. So when you look at Brennan Johnson, they are starting to address a long-term issue, which is going to help us in the process of being able to drive more deadwood out of here. But look, there's a few other pluses about the sign. I'll go on to them. But when we talk about it being Ange Postecoglou's first sign, what we have to understand is when we sold Harry Kane, Ange would have said, look, I prefer players that are versatile, that can play all across the front line. That's what I want to replace Kane with. So then the club then go, okay, no problem, but we've got a bit of a homegrown issue. We have to improve that core. So you can only go for someone that qualifies for homegrown. So for me, it's Ange Postecoglou's first choice in a reduced market. You've took 90% of the market away from him, and you've given him 10% of the market to pick from. So it's his first choice in that regard. But look, there's a couple of reasons why I think Ange Postecoglou, likes Brennan Johnson. I think when you look at it, right, the fact that, and this isn't spoke about enough, and this is something I also missed in my analysis beforehand, Nottingham Forest signed 20 players last year, but he still survived from the championship winning squad when most of it was from the promotion winning squad when most of it was obliterated, and he started for them as well. So that can't go underestimated. That does maybe show somewhat towards maybe the talent that he does possess. 8 goals and 3 assists in a team that, sort of avoided relegation, but, they weren't a great side last year. There was a lot of what would you call it? There was a lot of hiccups, with all the new signings for a while last season before it really got going. But also, when you look at Brennan Johnson, and this is a massive part in Ange Postecoglou's forward players that we sign, is the turnovers in possession. Yes, they have to, assist goals and score goals, etc. But they also have to have the work rate out of ball, because Ange wants, as soon as we lose it, it's high intensity press. He wants it turned over as quick as we can get it back. And we need forward players that are willing to go and make them, lung busting runs. And that's what they are. You're aimlessly chasing the ball, knowing that it's just going to be pop 5 yards. You know this when you're chasing it down, but they still go and do it. And I think he likes the work ethic of the kid. However, it is a huge, huge risk. There is a chance we could be sitting here in 2 years' time talking about this guy in the same breath as Richarlison and Ndombele, huge fees, potential talent that we've brought on that haven't delivered. There is that risk, a huge, huge risk. That is a huge element. But we have to give the kid time. There's a lot of sort of worries about his technical ability in tight spaces, being able to link up with people, this, that, and the other. That will have to improve. We've seen Richarlison hasn't been able to make that adaptation because he doesn't quite have that technical ability. So there are a lot of things that the kid needs to learn. And for me, it is a risky signing. I understand, and it's also within keeping with our recruitment, by the way. A lot of our recruitment has been 25 or under. So it does keep within that. But despite maybe some of them positives around the signings, it is very underwhelming. I can't deny that. I can't lie. To me, it's underwhelming. I expected more ambition in this, final few days to sort of kick on and give Ange Postecoglou what he needs. And it's just a real letdown. And once again, it's another window where what we haven't done has outshone what we have done, or the positive strides in other areas we have made. And then once again, we're all left sitting here wanting more, with the feeling of frustration that we've done well in some areas, but we can foresee the problems where we're light in other areas where it's going to come back to haunt us, Jacko.
Follow up for you, though, Dave. I know you sort of said your theory is that this is one of Ange's top signings within the context of only homegrown sort of targets. But is the reason that we're only going after really homegrown targets is because most of the deadwood that we shipped off were actually part of the homegrown quota. You look at Joe Rodon, you look at Jed Spence, you look at Harry Winks, you
Kane.
Look at Japhet Tanganga, and I might be even missing some others as well that we could
you're missing,
too. So a lot of homegrown guys we got rid of.
You're missing Troy Parrott, Alfie Devine, Dane Scarlett, Harry Kane. It's a problem that sort of, we
so many homegrown players being shipped out.
Yeah, exactly. Like some of the players that were maybe 21, 22 on the verge of the squad, we decided to loan them out. So they don't qualify, like we can't register them. Then you've also got the issue where you've sold Harry Kane. So it's sort of like...
how many of them players lack pace, which is what Ange likes? How many of them players lack pace? I mean, even now with Brennan Johnson, I'm going to hope he really does well. He's got pace, right? Mm-hmm. How many of them players have got the work ethic or are proactive, as well? I'm hoping, I don't know, but, Brennan Johnson appears in the video I watched. He's definitely got pace. He definitely can carry the ball. He's definitely got work ethic, right? Which you need to be if you're in a team like Forest, who struggle to survive in the Premier League. So he's got that. Has he got that extra edge that gives him that 5-star gold shield like of being a superb player? I don't know. But is he worse than what we've got? I don't know that either, actually. Because I don't know.
There is something else I do want to say. I'll get on to it in a minute. We'll take Leighton Evelyn's super chat here first and then come back to me, Jack. I want to open up another part of a conversation on this Brennan Johnson deal.
Good to see you, Leighton. As always, my friend, not happy clapping right now about this window. I'll let you know that straight ahead. But he says, Dave and Jack, Brennan Johnson is our player now, so I'm going to be 100% behind them. The fastest player in the Premier League, no center back and no striker this window. Our club has fucked us once again.
Yeah.
On Brennan Johnson and the pace, just to be, maybe take a moment to annoy you with some happy clappingness here, Leighton. On Brennan Johnson and the pace, I do feel like we have found ourselves frustrated on certain occasions where Kulusevski's been played in behind, and anybody with, decent speed or decent pace would have been clean through and would have been able to have a clean pair of heels and would have a one-on-one with the keeper. There have been times when Kulusevski, if he doesn't get that first touch down, he does get caught up with by certain defenders. So it will be nice to have Johnson, who is just going to be a very different player to a Kulusevski. Kulusevski, I think, is more kind of his strengths lie in the creative areas. His strength lies in being able to create for himself, being able to create for others, just with his own sort of dribbling, with his passing, with his vision, all of that sort of good stuff. But Brennan Johnson, on the other hand, perhaps more of a goal scoring type winger that might be able to play in behind, might be able to sort of get some of those goals that we see Sonny get. When I think of Johnson, I actually think more of finishing than I really do of anything else. I think of some of the goals that he scored last season. All of them are kind of similar to maybe like an old sort of vintage kind of Sonny goal where it's, a guy running at full pace, full speed, right at his defender or right at sort of the goalkeeper and is able to sort of slot it away with kind of decent, efficiency. And I know I'm kind of going to probably throw in a huge, yank, sort of stat moment here. But one thing that I kind of caught out was with Brennan Johnson is of all the few shots that he takes very few shots in comparison to other sort of wingers. I think that's because he plays for a team like Forest. But he's actually almost as accurate, pretty much as accurate with those shots that he does take as Sonny is. So it shows that it is kind of in line with some people's thinking that he is a good finisher. Like he is good at being able to be clinical, challenge the goalkeeper, being able to actually put the ball in the back of the net when given those chances. And there were very few chances of them last season. And that's something I would say is slightly different to Kulusevski. Kulusevski, at least of recent, when been given chances, has missed them and has actually not been able to be as clinical and has not really been able to be the guy that we need in those situations. So you could say, if you were to be really delusional like I am sometimes, Leighton, Brennan Johnson is going to offer something very different to Kulusevski, and I'm actually excited about that. But when it comes to no center back and no striker, especially for me with no center back, more and no center back, there's no excuse. It's unexplainable. It's embarrassing. It's pretty much disgusting. I think
in fairness to Kulusevski, he brings a lot more to a team than an ordinary winger will bring. I mean, when I looked at the Bournemouth game, even when we're under pressure, if you looked at Kulusevski in his position when the players were trying to get the ball off him, they can't get the ball off him, right? And he's always looking. What I like about him, he passes my free eye test. He moves the ball quickly. He's got vision. He can make things happen. When he put that ball through to Kane against Shakhtar Donetsk, that was a number 10 pass, which is where I see him in the future. Maybe not. It might not happen, right? But when people say he doesn't get down to the byline enough in last season, bear in mind we were playing an 8-3 under a Conte negative system. When he's up there and he gets the ball, there's no one to give the ball to. If you go to the byline, you want to hit across in the box. No point. If there's no point, you can't hit the player in the middle of the box. But if you cut in, like one accuses him of cutting him on his left foot, which is true, that is true, right? You cut in to narrow the space to make sure you can put a more accurate forward sliding ball through to say to Kane or whatever. I think under Conte's system last season, I think Conte killed a lot of players. I think he starved a lot of players. We're seeing players that are expressing themselves now that Conte would never allow them to do. I mean, Conte played what I call anti-football. It's not, and like, don't get me wrong, I didn't know nothing about Nuno Espirito Santo. But I didn't like Mourinho either because I knew what he would bring, and I knew he'd leave a train wreck, and I knew Conte would leave a train wreck, and he'd cut and run, right? So, like, I think now I could be proved wrong. I think Kulu is a quality player with a wonderful left foot, right? When I went back and watched some of the assists and the goals he scored. Not the goals he scored. I was looking more at his assists because I know he can score goals, right? And I was just thinking to myself, like, this kid has got some. He's young. He's 23 or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, we're now the third youngest team in the league. You know, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, like, this kid is good. He's a unit anyway. He's very hard to get off the ball. He wins more than his possessions of fucking contacts with other players. He holds the ball well, right? They can't get him off him. He's always shouldering. He's got his arm up and he's shouldering the ball. But what he's doing, when I'm watching him doing that, he's looking around. He's got the vision to look around. He's not one of these, like an Adam Traore goes blasting down the wing, doesn't know what he, and just hoofs the ball in the middle, hoping he's going to find someone.
Yeah.
I like he brings you more. Now, when we're under pressure, say the Fulham game, which was a disaster during the week, right? Can Periship defend from the front? Can Manor Sullivan defend from the front? You're a coach, you're coaching a team, you want a bit more of it players. You want the work ethic with the skill factor as well, right? And I like the look of Manor Sullivan. He's got a purpose, but I also like the look of Gill as well.
Look,
Premier League, it demands more of you. You just can't be unless because I've got to be honest, guys. I still haven't fully grasped Ange's system. When it becomes to be like the inverted fullbacks cutting in, I've seen Porro cut in to be inverted. But I haven't seen that with Udogie. What I've seen with Udogie, do what he does best. He just bombs up and down the left-hand side. And I want him to keep doing that because that's what he's good at, right? You play to a player's strength. So I'm still trying to get around. I haven't got Ange's system around my head. I've got to be honest. I mean, Paul might know more. He knows him from Australia and Celtic and all that. And you guys might. And you Irish, you've watched Celtic play. So, I mean, like, I haven't. So, like, I can't comment on that.
Yeah.
I'm just, I think Kulusevski is. I think he's technically such a good player with vision. You know,
I agree. I agree.
I'm not talking about pace. And when people talk about pace, let's get this straight. Do you guys listen to this podcast now? This great podcast by this great show, right? Go and watch his stats for speed. We're talking about a player who gets caught up because he's got the ball at his feet by an athletic defender who's running in free space with no ball at his feet. But what Kulu does very well, when he sees the player closing in on him, he turns and looks and he shields and he holds the ball so well. He's a player you can hit the ball out from defence who will hold it up for you and take the pressure off you, is all that. He gives you a lot more, and yet people say, oh, he can't beat a player. He doesn't get down to the byline. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. Well, this is my opinion about the player. And like, listen, all you listeners are entitled to your own opinion, obviously. And I'm not going to like say you're wrong. I just think there is a lot to Kulusevski for a young guy. I think he's a fantastic player.
I agree. Look, I really like Kulusevski. I really do. I think, look, I'm delighted we signed him on a permanent this summer. But look, I do want to get back to Brennan Johnson. Look, for me, there's going to be a lot made of that. Ange didn't want a striker. I mean, I ain't falling into that. And this is where I wanted to go with this. Because, if he didn't want a striker, we wouldn't have inquired about Gift Orban. The reality is, I think the reason why we're ending up with signing a player that's more versatile and can play across the front three is purely because we lacked a succession plan to Harry Kane. We didn't think he was going to go 2 days before the window. I think Daniel Levy took a gamble accepting the money, hoping Harry Kane would turn it down so close to the start of the season. And for me, I think Leighton, when you're talking about strike, I think it's going to come back to haunt us. If you want me to be brutally honest, I think the lack of goal scorer is concerning. You know, people say, "Oh, Ange Postecoglou doesn't need a striker." I mean, horseshit. Yeah, Furuhashi, he scored 30 goals. So, you know, don't tell me the guy doesn't need a striker. He is going to need a striker to finish off these moves. Now, I think this is where the conversations come in. I think we have to understand that by the looks of it, we went looking for strikers by inquiring for the likes of Gift Orban, but you know we want
David, we bottled it.
Yeah.
We bottled it, David.
Yeah. No, we did.
It. We bottled Gift Orban because we knew.
One second, Adrian. One second.
Sorry.
Let me get it out,
I'm waffling.
No, look. When it comes to when it comes to us looking for a striker, right, we have to understand we went looking for Gift Orban. They wanted 35, 40 million. We were never going to pay that. And the reason why they're doing it is because they don't want to sell a striker that scores the amount of goals he does at the start of a domestic league, because it's going to come back and cause them problems. Then everyone also, so there's a premium on that. Then everyone also knows that we have the Harry Kane money. So they're going to all want a slice of that as well. So there's another premium on that. And then also when you take into account that leading the line as a striker is a rarity nowadays, that's why they're going for so much money. There's also the premium on that, and we didn't want to pay it. That's what it comes down to. So that's why we're looking at, and we've also ended up at someone like Brennan Johnson, because we don't want to pay the going rate for a goal scorer. And I am concerned. And look, it could come down to a bit of the unknown. All my lifetime supporting Tottenham, we've had great goal scorers. We've had strikers up front who scored goals, as well as creative wingers, creative midfielders and stuff like that. And we are really sort of, in my lifetime as a Spurs fan, going into the unknown where you don't have that out-and-out goal scorer. And it does concern me. And I just think it's a big fail on the club's behalf. But look, we'll let Paul in there as well. And we've a couple of super chats to get to.
Anything to say there, Paul?
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about the striker situation, because Celtic they did have Kyogo Furuhashi, but he only scored 27 goals out of the 114 that Celtic scored last year, and they let in 34. Their goal difference was plus 80. Take out strikers' goals, it's plus 53. So, you know, goals get shared around when we're playing Ange's style of football. And, you know, on the Gift Orban thing, I can understand them. You know, like you said earlier, Dave, we're under a bit of pressure with the whole homegrown quota. If we'd have bought Gift Orban, we would have had to buy another English player somewhere else. And, you know, maybe this isn't a bad compromise. So, I'm excited about the whole thing. I think over the summer we've reinvented our first 11, both with new signings and some that have come off loan and some that just didn't shine last year that have come to the fore. So I think we're in pretty good stead to at least last out until January, where we've got that Belyth kid who's training with the first team 11. So it doesn't look like he's too much a prospect for the distant future. He might be coming in this season. Who knows? So I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with the whole thing so far. I trust in Ange. I think he's going his way. We haven't made any signings where we go, oh God, who the hell's that? It's for me, it's all positive.
I don't know if I'm pushing back on Dave's behalf, and then Dave, you can answer this too. I'm not sure if I'm pushing back or saying something that Dave would say here, but I mean, I'm almost speaking through him right now, Paul. But Pep Guardiola eventually needed a striker. He brought in Erling Haaland so he could win the Champions League. You look at Xavi over at Barcelona, he brought in Robert Lewandowski. You look at most of the, you know, top teams and top clubs and top managers around the world, whether their style really depends on a main number 9 is always questionable, but they've always seemed to have at some stage sort of succumbed to bringing in, you know, a big number 9 that they know can score the goals. And I think Guardiola is probably the best example of it. He was practically, you know, refusing to bring in a striker for years and eventually realized that he probably just needed to sort of, you know, go against his own principles or kind of just dirty up his tactics a little bit and go after a big number 9. And eventually that worked out for him and he won the quadruple or whatever they ended up winning. Right. And I just feel like that's a sign that even if the system technically doesn't need a striker as much as other systems might need a striker. Eventually you do need a striker, because it seems like all big managers one day will get a striker. They all seem to.
Yeah,
Well, I'd settle for, winning a few league titles and a few cups like Man City did without a striker, and then we can go and get one.
Yeah, I like it.
I think we've gone for Brennan Johnson because we've been bitten by Sanchez, 42 million, Lo Celso and Ndombele. We've been bitten by them, and I think they've looked at it and they just thought, Gift Orban to me when I've looked at him. I don't know if you guys have looked at him. I looked at him. Remind me of a bit of a Defoe-esque player. Doesn't really lay balls off. Great goal scorer. Done well. We can say it's the Belgian league, but come on. The Belgian league produced Company, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Dries Martins, Eden Hazard. The list goes on.
They didn't. That's a myth. Eden Hazard came through in France. Toby and Jan and that came through at Ajax. They didn't produce them players. Other academies produced them players.
All right, then I'm wrong. Then I apologise. I'm wrong.
Look. The thing is, when it comes to someone like Gift Orban, I get it. But Patson Daka was another one, right? Highly rated, banging in goals. He went to Leicester. Look how that worked out. I just feel we're making mistakes that we've made before, right? We've purposed Davies from a left back to a left-sided centre back to a left back. You've purposed Dyer from a centre midfield to a centre back. We've made these mistakes before where we're using players and we're hoping that versatility gets us out of problems that we could solve by buying players in the market. And it hasn't got us out of problems. It's come back to haunt us. And for me, this is going to be another classic example. You're going to look to repurpose Sutton or look to repurpose Kulu as your striker now with Brennan Johnson coming in. But are they going to be able to do what a striker does? I'm not quite so sure. And for me, it's just another classic example of having versatility to paper over your cracks.
What did you make to my point, Dave, that, Guardiola eventually brought in a striker. All these other guys have eventually brought in big strikers. It sort of shows, right?
There's a reason why Bayern Munich came, right? They nearly lost the league to Dortmund last year for the first time in I don't know how long. They come in, buy Harry Kane. They know they'll walk that, and they'll also have a chance to win the Champions League. You look at Man City. They bought Erling Haaland to go and win the Champions League because they needed that vocal point. Liverpool were closing them up in the league. That's why they ended up going by Erling Haaland, because them goals are a massive difference. It separates you. Look, I'm not doubting Ange Postecoglou's tactics. I hope that he's an absolute magician so that his tactics can get us out of a trouble that I foresee on the horizon.
I could see that his tactics might be less dependent on a striker compared to other, managers' tactics. But at the end of the day, I do feel like all, managers would like and would, want a big name, or not a big name, just a very efficient and very clinical striker. Who would refuse that? Who would say no to that? Al Ben, thank you for your support, my friend. Big up to you, Leighton Evelyn from earlier. He said, watch Forrest matches from last season. He always caught my eyes, so much so I was watching and thinking that he looks like he can play for a big team. I sort of thought the same, without even thinking he would ever go to a team like Spurs, Al Ben, because Forrest for me last season, and this is one of the points I made in my scout report, they were one of the teams I hated watching last season. Like, they were pretty dreadful, I thought, throughout a lot of the campaign. Felt like they didn't really know what they wanted to be. They didn't really have much of a definable sort of play style of any kind. It sort of just felt like Steve Cooper was making sense of the 40,000 signings that he was given that season. But then also he was trying to just find a way to survive. It was sort of like survival tactics type of football. And I think Brennan Johnson somehow stood out in all of that. They scored, I think, something as well, like the fourth fewest goals or something like that in all of the league last season. So it's not like he's going to be banging in a ton, and ended up being one of their higher goal scorers, despite, scoring so many or so few goals and so few creativity. And he wasn't even the out and out striker. It was more like other players that were the out and out striker for Forrest. I actually think he had a lot of moments last season I can recall that I just thought were big moments that they actually relied on him. He had some very good goals that helped them stay up. He had some very deft finishes, some very good ones, in fact. And all I can say is he's a guy that impressed me last season. I didn't think he was 50 million pounds impressive, that's a different thing. But at the end of the day, he stood out as one of the best players in that Forest team. And that Forest team were not fun to watch. There were some periods where they looked like they were going to get relegated. There were some periods where it looked like they were certain to go down. And then they found a way to get back up. But let's be honest, it was not a team that I would say had any sort of identity, had any sort of good style of play. And Brennan Johnson scored some pretty good goals for them and some pretty key ones, in fact. Not saying that earned him a 50 million pound move, but if you were just to be complimentary to the guy, you would say he stood out in what was a pretty bad team, in my opinion.
Jack, if Brennan Johnson is played as a ball carrying number 8, I would expect, which has been our biggest disappointment, I would expect that if the front three is Son, Richarlison and Kulu, them to score more goals, simply because this is a more attacking system than we've seen under the last 3 managers. And if they can't score more goals, then that would raise concerns. You start thinking like, well, you've got to change things. You've got to drop players or whatever. Because like, if you can't score goals under his system, right, then like, what you have to make changes. You have to make changes.
And look, maybe that's one thinking behind this deal, right? That he wants to maybe make some changes. He wants Brennan Johnson going down on the right hand side on his right foot. You might see Kulu pushed over to the left hand side, then going on the left hand side on his left foot, and then you might see Son being repurposed in the middle. Or you look, it does give Ange flexibility, but I don't know. Part of me thinks if we bought a striker, we'd see him in the lineup tomorrow. But anyway.
Yeah. Thank you, Alben, for your support. And I actually felt the same way last season. I'm not kidding. I'm not lying to you or, catering to you at all. I did feel that way about Brennan Johnson last season. Didn't expect such a big move for him, but I did think he stood out quite well. Moondog saying, what a crap transfer window. We'll probably get into some of the negatives of it at some stage, Moondog. But probably just one of the biggest ones for me, if I had to pick one thing that just made this not a great window or one that doesn't leave a good taste in the mouth, is seeing the same usual suspects that caused us so much pain last season still here at the club. The guys that we basically had at the top of our list. Every single fan had Dyer, had Sanchez, maybe a Lloris, maybe a Davies in there too, pretty much at the top of their list. And all of those guys still remain. And that's where it just is a real stinker of a transfer window, in my opinion, on that case. Big up to you, Moondog. Hopefully you're having a good evening, my friend. And then Leighton Evelyn says, Dave and Jack, I need your positivity because, as you both know, I got none. Please cheer me up, lads. Give me the happy clapper smiles. Give me something. Leighton, I think I tried my best earlier, but I think that was all the happy clapping I could give. I think now I'm actually ready to go into why I actually think this was such a crappy window. I think I've tried to give as much positivity as I could. But Dave, anything to say to Leighton? I love this. Very nice.
Look, I do think it's important amongst maybe the disappointment of deadline day or how the windows petered out, right? And the areas we didn't do. I think there are some positives that we can sort of take away from it, right? We are getting our act together about producing the best products from the youth academy into the senior team, which in the long run means we don't have to make money spread. And hopefully you'll start bringing in some big signings because you've got some youth players coming through where you don't need to spend money in certain positions. And also hopefully that will solve a homegrown sort of quota issue in the future, and you're really sort of only pushing through and picking through from the best. As right over the last couple of years, we've produced one here or there. We haven't exactly been of the best quality, but we continue with them because it's all we've got. I think Phillips was a great signing for the future. Partnering him up with Dorrington, I think, is absolutely genius. I think you'll see the two of them at centre back for Tottenham in a couple of years for sure. I think, look, the signing of Elise, it's good to see us bringing in, some strikers from South America and having a look at them and stuff like that. That's good. I think you solved the goalkeeper issue with Vicario. Yes, long overdue, but I really like the look of Vicario, shot stopper and his distribution. Massive plus. Mickey van der Veen, huge plus. If anyone goes back to my Welcome to Tottenham videos, I said this guy is only going to go from strength to strength, and in a couple of seasons, he'll be £100 million player. You can see that in the guy if he continues that trajectory. I think, he's been a perfect partner for Romero. It stops them conversations about selling our best defender. I think bringing in Maddison to solve a bit of a creativity issue, great signing. However, when you sell Harry Kane, I don't understand it. It's like if you had Harry Kane up front, you had Maddison supplying him, we'll have a chance to win the league this year with no Europe. So we've sort of hindered ourselves there. Still having Dyer and the likes of Sanchez still here. Absolute madness, when they should have been first ones out the door, considering how much they cost us last year. So I do think it is important to acknowledge the positives, even though there are some negatives off the back of it. There are some positives in what we have done this window. I think, re-signing Kulusevski was a plus.
I thoroughly agree. Like you, a massive Kane fan, right? We've only brought in, right, Brennan Johnson. Tell me we couldn't have brought in Brennan Johnson and kept Harry Kane. Harry Kane, right? To me, of course we could, And like you look at, we're after like Lloyd Kelly. Well, we had Tapsoba, Ribeiro, Roger Ibanez, Nelson, Anderson from Palace, Guay from Palace, Bramer, Colwell, Maguire, Kilman, Langley, Tar, Hincapi, Ikaru, like Shars, and then like Kelly, 16th choice in my notepad. 16th choice. We're in a transfer window. We're in 16th choice centre back. Now, I know we may have looked at him like before he was injured at Bournemouth, right? But come on, 15th choice, right?
Adrian, there's no excuse for it.
It smacks of Roden, doesn't it? Again,
yeah.
And like midfielders, only one, Conor Gallagher, I mean, like Amrabat's going to Man United for a €10 million down payment. Sangari's going to Forest, right? And we're not in. Now, no, I'm not saying that's wrong, because Ange might want more progressive, what we consider a more defensive number 6, a monster, and that might not be Ange's type of player. I'm not sure what it is. So he might not want that type of monster at the back. But if he wants that monster at the back, you get Sangara, right? You get Amrabat. Yet we haven't gone for those type of players. So I don't know. I don't know. And then we have our own fans saying, "Oh, Basuma's not a number 6." Well, what define number 6? Define what your number 6, because it comes in various models, doesn't it? It comes with a deep line defensive midfielder monster, or someone who's a bit more, who can be progressed with the ball and push upfield, So like, you can't have it always. I don't know what Ange wants. I'm still trying to suss out his system when I watch Spurs play from the ground, and I'm trying to watch patterns of play when I see we've got 4 at the back, 3 at the back, 4 in midfield, 5 in midfield, 2 at the front, 4 at the front. I've seen it. I've seen all that. So when people talk about systems, they're very fluid. I'm more thinking about what is the role of the player that Ange wants you to play, right? Because that's more important. I see Porro, who I've still got to get my trust element on, and Emerson, to be honest. I know he improved last season, but still got to be trust. Porro specifically, because like, didn't look over his shoulder against Leicester last year, didn't look over his shoulder against Newcastle last year, got done against West Ham against the pre-season again, not looking over his shoulder, what's on his right, and I think he got done against Barcelona or Shakhtar Donetsk as well. So I'm still, he's had a couple of good games, but we've been there before with players when we've like built a bit of trust on players because they've had 2 good games, right? Yeah. Sanchez is a prime example, even Dyer and whatever. So I'm not there yet, And we still have holes in the squad. We have no backup for you, Dogie. I know Davis is there, and look, if it works out that Davis is, we're lucky, and something happens to Dogie and he's injured or whatever, and we're playing one of the weaker teams and we get away with one, fine. Same with any other players. But I'm concerned if we lose Romero, or Van der Ven, what are we doing?
I agree.
And on the right, I still haven't got trust on the right. We have holes. We have holes in our squad. Now, don't get it wrong. I knew we were not going to fix things in one window. That was never going to happen. We've got players out the best we could. It happens to be that we've got players out on loan because that's the best we could. Well, that's good. That's good, right? But like, we've still got holes to fix, and they're still going to take a couple of transfer windows to fix.
Yeah. Look, I just can't believe we're here still. I get maybe in terms of incomings and not having everything about. It'll take some time to fix, but shifting out the deadwood, it shouldn't be like this. It really shouldn't. But look, Paul, where are you at with it? I mean, my man, Adrian Cheers maybe, or not Adrian Cheers, sorry, and Leighton Evelyn is looking for maybe a bit of positivity. You said you have seen the positives in this window, so maybe look, you obviously think we've had a good window, Paul. So maybe tell us why.
Well, look, it's been okay. I think it was better. It's been better than last summer. Look, the important things we needed to do, we got it done. We got it done well. So we got a great new keeper. Van der Ven looks sensational. Madison is incredible. So they were three important signings that I don't think we went second best or we went cheap. We got players who are looking pretty good, and I think Andrew's got to be given credit for, he's only been around the club since 1st of July, and he's had to go through that whole roster of 36 players or whatever and separate the wheat from the chaff. And yeah, maybe, I've heard people say, oh, he should have been watching them before and, all that. Well, if he was going on last year's tapes, we wouldn't be seeing Sarr and Basuma this year. It would just be, oh, no, well, Sarr wasn't fancied. Basuma was off. We're not going to play them. So we've got two great players that we haven't seen in anger as much before. So I'm positive about the whole thing. When you look at our first 11, I don't think there's anyone playing better football than us in the Premier League at the moment. And that's I'm not saying we're going to win the Premier League, but I'm saying we're going to win the Premier League. I think there's a lot when you compare the state of our first team to what it was 12 months ago. I think it's light years better. You've got 5 or 6 players that didn't feature last year. That's a hell of a turnover. So the transfer window has supplemented that. We already had some good players there that were being misused, and I think, that this is it's a good platform to see where we go from now. I think Andrew's done a great job of sorting out what he wants so quickly.
I agree, Paul.
Not perfect, but it's just the start. It's just the start. And it's not a bad start.
I agree, Paul. And I think our midfield is as good, if not better, than any midfield in the Premier League. And that's without Bentancur coming back. Because with Sarr, Madison, and Basuma, now don't get me wrong, they won't always have the best of games. But if I go back to the early 80s, right, I remember when we had Odlar, Dealers and Vila. If one of them was on ball, you'd know that virtually would win the game. If two of them were, we got it 1-3. Well, it was like, it was just done. It was just a done deal. We didn't have a ball winner there out of those three, our Dealers, Odlar and Vila. But you knew that like we were just going to blow teams away. And that's what we did, because the quality was there. And I see different. It's different. Football's different nowadays, but I see different where Basuma especially, he's so quick on the half turn and reverse turn. I see it with Madison, who not only he skates when he drifts out to the wing and he comes back, and then he just slips players. He just skates past them. And with Sarr, I see. Hate to refer to the enemy, but I see he is so multi-dimensional. Sarr, I'm not quite. All his qualities are hard to sort of predict. I see a lot of Patrick Vieira. I see a bit of Patrick Vieira in him defensively, in Sarr, and also see more about him going forward. The confidence in him. He can also slip players and get stuck in, he's so I think he's multifaceted and versatile, such a multifaceted and versatile player, Sarr. I don't know what do you guys think of Sarr? Jack, what do you think?
He's a
of
very
Sarr?
complete midfielder, Adrian. He's a very complete midfielder. I agree with you there. Just to you, though, Leighton, just to summarize, my friend, and then we'll get on to some of the other super chats here. I did write a list of happy clapping positives about this window. I'll do them very quickly. I'm actually happy with all the signings we actually made at the end of the day, Leighton, even though I think we should have made more signings. All the ones that did come in, I don't really have as much of a problem with as maybe others might. James Maddison was the creative midfielder we needed. Kulusevski on a permanent is a very good sign. And I think on the actual deal structure itself is a very good signing for the future. Mickey van de Ven clearly was the perfect center back partner for Romero and is going to be blossoming into one. Vicario is the replacement for Lloris that I've been screaming for, the one that I've been waiting for a long, long time. Can only be happy about that. Monor Solomon was actually technically a player that we really did need. It's not really the most glamorous of signings, but it was a position that did need filling. We needed to find a way to go after somebody that could replace Danjuma, Lucas Moura, and then also technically Steven Bergwijn's kind of former position, sort of that alternative winger to bring off the bench. Alejo Valise, I'm happy about signing another Argentinian talent. Also, Spurs do have a history with good Argentinian players, so I'm always good for that. And then Ashley Phillips, basically alongside Dorrington, is pretty much one of the top and up-and-coming center backs of his age group around England. And it's good to have basically the two of the best center backs around their age group, for the England team. And that means, good signs for the homegrown situation in the future there, Leighton. So those are my positives about the window. Big up to you, my friend. Moondog's in the house. He says, welcome to the Spurs madhouse. It's certainly a madhouse when you have delusional Jack here, and then you also have Paul as well, and just #1 PR team, man. That's going to make it a madhouse for sure there, Paul. But big up to you, Moondog. Chris is in here too. Good to see you, Chris. Thank you for your support. Thanks for holding it down as a mod as well. He said, gutted, Dyer, and Sanchez are still at the club. That's what I said earlier, Chris, was my sort of biggest negative from this window is the guys that I complained about pretty much to my heart's content, pretty much till I ran out of words, till I couldn't speak any longer. The guys that I felt like I was most frustrated with last season are still here at this club. They were at the very top of my list in terms of players we need to get out. I'm pretty sure they're at the top of pretty much everybody else's list that, players that need to be shipped out. And yet they still exist. And yet they still are here, Chris. It just shows how inept we are in terms of the outgoings, my man. Big up to you, though. Hopefully you're keeping well. Then Moondog says, I love my club, but we are a joke and a laughingstock right now. I think in terms of being a laughingstock, I think we are a laughingstock in the outgoings. It's absurd to see other clubs find ways to be able to push out players in far more kind of, aggressive sort of ways, kind of ruthless sort of manners than Spurs do. Spurs seem to be able to concede and give up all this ground and all this leeway and all this power to guys that ruined their season last season, guys that contributed to the 64 goals conceded from last season. We're getting pushed around by in these negotiations and in these, in these talks. I get it that certain clubs we've lined up moves for, maybe they don't want to go to, but some of these clubs, surely they should have been able to, be pushed towards. And if they didn't want to go there, we should have embarrassed them and we should have made it very clear that they were rejecting moves and that they are trying to hold the club hostage. And I'm pretty sure the fans would have then turned on those players, and then the fans would have made it uncomfortable for those guys. And if they were willing to sit through the under 23s for the rest of the season, so be it. But I do think that's a risk that most of those guys would not be, willing to take, because it says a lot about them as players. It says that they're more willing to take the money than they are actually to progress their own football career. And I feel like Spurs didn't do enough to really push the players down that sort of thinking. Like, well, if you really want to do this, we'll make it pretty, obvious to the rest of the world, what type of player you are, where your priorities lie. And it didn't seem like we did that this summer. So that I think makes us actually a laughingstock, because I've seen other clubs do it, Moondog, like Dave has brought up before. We've seen other clubs do it. Why can't we do it? And then lastly, Leighton Evelyn says, Dave and Jack, do you think Dyer and Hugo will disrupt the harmony of the squad behind the scenes? We can't move on with them here. Ange will pay for it. I think Leighton is right, Dave.
I don't think Ange will let him do it.
Go on.
I don't think Ange will let him do it. Ange is there to protect the football team. And okay, especially Hugo and Dyer haven't gone, but they're not getting squad numbers, not like in previous years. So they're going to, I'd be surprised if they're still here, after it's all done and dusted. If they don't get squad numbers, that's career-ending move. They're just going to be doing what? They're going to walk into another club next year on a free after they've not been doing anything for a year. That just isn't going to happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's still a little bit of movement on those two characters. But at the end of it, if a player says, I don't want to go, what can you do, man? What can you do? The only thing you can do is freeze them out, tear up their contract or whatever, and that may still happen. But they definitely don't have the same influence that they have had in the past, which is a good thing.
Look, I certainly hope so. I mean, look, Hugo Lloris turned down a last-minute move to Nice. He rejected a contract offer from there. But look, what I will say is you got the Turkish transfer window in play until the 15th, and then I also think you got the Saudi transfer window open a bit longer then again. So, they could still could be moves on the card for maybe someone like Ndombele. But look, the reality is the fact that they're still here. Hugo Lloris announced that he didn't want to be a part of this at the end of last season, way before preseason even started, this, that, and the other. So we should have done everything we could to not stand in his way and not even try and request any fees or anything like that and just let him go or pay him up his last year of contract or come to some sort of negotiation and get him out of the club. The same as Eric Dyer. I've spoke about these guys, especially in Dyer's case, being disrupted behind the scenes for quite some time, but not only behind the scenes, but also on the football pitch as well, in terms of performances, the lack of quality, constantly making excuses for his performances, constantly blaming managers, this, that, and the other, despite every manager since Pochettino showing faith in him because they've had no option because we haven't signed centre-backs. And this guy also said he wants his ashes buried underneath the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium because he loves it that much, but yet refuses to move on for the benefit of the club. And now it's just absolutely madness. And this is what I've said to people all along. All the excuses that I've heard down the last 3 years about this guy, now the truth is coming out. People call me an idiot, this, that, and the other. Will now come back and apologize. That's what I say on stuff like that. But look, it's just an absolute joke. Sanchez is another one. Okay, to turn down the roof to Russia, but he's had other moves he could have made up until this date. But he'd rather collect the bag. Same as Tanguy Ndombele, and I've absolutely had enough of it. This is why I said at the start of the summer transfer window, Tottenham need to get tough on this, and they need to start negotiating to pay people out of their contracts and whittle this down so that we don't have this problem, so that we can move in the market and bring in players. And now all of a sudden we find ourselves here deadline day, and these same players are still here. If you would have told me at the start of the summer they were going to sell Harry Kane, but Dyer and Sanchez will still be here, I would have said, what the fuck are we doing? Because our biggest problem is centre-backs that them guys have caused, and Harry Kane is one of the leading contributors to one of the reasons why we weren't in a relegation battle last season with his consistent supply of goals. And I just can't believe we're still sitting here that our greatest player ever has walked away from this club this summer transfer window, and these guys are still here. And I'm absolutely fuming about it. And I get what Paul's saying, that Ange might sort of, might not have them in and around the squad, but the reality is they're still going to be in and around the place. They're still going to be there. They've had a lot of control of that dressing room for the last 8 to 10 years. In Hugo Lloris's case, 11 years. And for me, I just see a problem on the horizon. But this is something the club should have copped. And as soon as they knew Ange didn't want Dyer, as soon as they knew Ange didn't want Hugo Lloris, because they only have 1 year left on the contract, Spurs could have negotiated to pay them out and get them out of this club. So we don't even have to have this conversation that we're having. Will they come back to affect the harmony of the squad? We shouldn't even be having this conversation because the club should have got tough on it. But once again, Daniel Levy is holding out to see if he can get a fee for these guys rather than do what's best for this football club so that we can move on and progress. I'll take Paul's point about the first 11, but the reality is you get one injury to Romero van der Ven, Sanchez is in. You get an injury, to both. That means Dyer will be in if he's registered, and this is the problem. This is my biggest problem. And then they'll come in, they'll cost us, and all of a sudden everyone will go Ange Postecoglou, like what happened on Tuesday night. Yes, he made changes, but a lot of them players were given an opportunity to perform because, let's be honest, they performed in preseason. Most people said the second half team looked better than the first half team in preseason. They performed. Then Ange Postecoglou gives them an opportunity in a game where it means something off the back of them guys performing. Let's not forget, Skip scored 2 against Barcelona, right? He gave them a chance and they let him down. And then all of a sudden, no one talks about the players and them consistently doing it. everyone goes to the 9 changes Ange Postecoglou made. And I warned people, this was going to happen, that people would turn or question Ange quicker than what they have done with Conte or Jose Mourinho because of the stature they have behind them in terms of the game. And I warned people this was going to happen. And this will continue to happen as long as guys like these continue to hold out and the club do not get tough. I was told over the summer, let Harry Kane go, no player is bigger than the football club, right? Okay, so then why are we sitting here with Dyer being bigger than the football club, Hugo Lloris being bigger than the football club, Ndombele being bigger than the football club? But when you mention that, everyone else will turn around and go, oh, well, it's more complicated. You can't just pay up the contract. No, you can. If we don't want players here bigger than the football club, right? I thought that was what we were at.
Why is it that we were giving Harry Kane a harder time for holding us hostage, at least in, a lot of people's words over the summer, when these guys, these dross players who have done nothing for this club and have never helped us out at any stage, especially of last season, are actually the ones holding us hostage? It seems like we've had more excuses, more time, more kind of considerable understanding for their situation. The players that have cost us points, cost us seasons, cost us tournaments, cost us opportunities to be happy as a fan base. And yet we've given them more sympathy because, at the end of the day, they have to see their best interests. At the end of the day, they have to look out for their best selves and all these things. And yet when it came to Harry Kane, we were so quick to absolutely throw under the bus and say that he's holding us hostage and all that. Absolutely spot on, Dave.
I get the point with the Kane situation. I'm a massive Kane fan, right? I'm gutted he's gone, right? As David is. I know David's a big Kane fan, right? But that in pre-season, all them games, what you're going to do, you play Harry Kane. Why do you play him? Because if you don't play him, you send out the signals, we're willing to let him go. And then he ends up going for a less price in a transfer window and all that. So you keep playing him. When people are saying why did we play him when we knew we was going to let him go? Guys, those fans need to wise up. So you keep playing, and fair play to Levy. He got the best price you could get for a player in the last year of his contract. He did well with Eriksen when he got to January. He gets 16 million for Eriksen when he had a few months to go to the end of the season. So I can't fault him for that. But where's the plan for the replacement? And we know, but don't get me wrong, we also know there are a dearth of strikers out there. Even if we look now, we've took Brennan Johnson, all right? We could have got Gift Orban. We could have gone for Jonathan David, all right? Miani is going to like PSG unless that deal's failed. I heard some rumours and what's about lately, whether that's going through or not. But you look at them strikers. I looked at Vlahovic and people said to me, Vlahovic doesn't suit the end system. Really? He's a proven goal scorer. People were saying Kane doesn't suit the end system, and yet he scored 4 goals against Shakhtar Donetsk. You know what I mean? So this is bullshit. That is just bullshit to me, right? We've lost the best strike we've ever had with no plan of how we're going to replace him. Now, don't expect to replace Kane with Kane, but do your research, do your database and analytics and all that, and come up with people that you think are good enough. Now, I don't know if Gift Orban is the answer. He's not the same. It's like comparing apples with oranges. But can he do a good job for us? Or could Jonathan David do a good job? I've looked at videos of both those players. I've seen good things. Do I know if they'd work in the Premier League? No, I don't. Of course we don't. Until they're actually here. And then we don't know if we failed. And that's why I think we went for Brennan Johnson. Because at least he did it in the Football League. And he's did it in the Premier League, so he's shown enough for Spurs to go from. And Paratici liked him a season ago. But I don't know. I'm not a prophet. I don't know. But he seems to be the safer bet.
Question quickly back to you though, Adrian, on Leighton's comment here. Do you think Dyer, Lloris staying around? Is that bad for Ange? Is that, going to hurt his message or hurt some of the dynamics or the squad cohesion?
To be totally ruthless, I don't think Ange gives a shit. Seriously, he won't.
I think he's angry.
He's worth his salt. He won't. He won't give a crap about it. Seriously, he won't. He won't.
He's a juggernaut, man.
Because
He's a
he's
juggernaut.
got his
You
mindset.
can't
You know,
get in his
Paul,
way.
I'll let you take over, Paul. Go on.
Yeah, and Ange is a force of nature, man. It's his way or no way. And if we've got a couple of stinky players moaning and whinging, he'll sort it out. He'll sort it out. He won't let it disrupt the harmony of the squad one bit.
Yeah, look, again, I just, I was told no players bigger than Harry Kane. We have to cash in, and then we're letting Ndombele, Eric Dyer, and Hugo Lloris spend this club over and pull our pants down. I mean, where's the same energy? You know what I mean? And this is what I've spoke about before. Over the summer, we were having conversations about our best players going and not concentrating enough on talking about the deadwood going. And now, it's just a knock-on from that. Why do we not show? Why do we find every reason to sort of sell our best player? But yet, we don't want to show that same energy towards the deadwood. But yet, when I go and speak about it, then it's told, "Oh, you're being mean. You can't do that, Dave."
No,
It's,
not,
you're this, that, and the other, and it's sort of like, well, hang on a minute. I adore great players, and I hold them players to that standard. If they don't want to be to that standard, then they can get out my football club. I'm just fed up with it.
David, love you to death, right? I'm going to throw this at you because I'm such a Kane lover, and I'm gutted he's gone, right? What have we gained by letting Kane go in this transfer window? What have we gained?
Johnson, 50 million.
We've got Brennan Johnson. That's all we've got. An unknown quantity. He might prove to be excellent, right? We don't know it. What have we gained? If we'd kept Kane and we got to the end of the season and we got top 5 and Champions League, that would have far outweighed the 103 million, how we get it. And fans, please don't say what we're doing with the Kane money as if you think that we're getting all that money up front in one lump sum out of the petty cash till. Transfers don't work that way. The same if we sell a player. We don't get all the money up front. It's a structured payment. We get X amount. We'd have got X amount. Levy would have demanded a bit more out. He squeezed Bayern. I'm glad he did, but he squeezed Bayern. We might have got half that money at most. How many clubs can turn around and give you like, okay, here's petty cash, here's 50 mil of the 103 mil? They can't do it. It just doesn't happen. The money just isn't there, right? You can go to bankers on your deal and say, like, look, we're getting all this money in for a player. We need money because we need a down payment to bring in A, B, C, and D. And for 60 million, you can bring in 4 players at 15 million a pop and down payments. That's the way it works. It doesn't work. It doesn't work the fact that you think you're going to get all the money in on your, on your players, or the opposing team is going to get their money because you want one of their players. It doesn't work that way.
Look, I just don't think we've done enough to address selling Harry Kane, and it's more than the goals he offers. It's the all-round play. And look, we'll see. I get it. The first team is playing some sexy football. You get a couple of injuries, you start mixing in what we played Tuesday night. There's going to be problems on the horizon, and performance will drop off a cliff.
The thinking was, Dave, if I recall, even if you wanted to sell Kane or not, the original thinking was behind selling Kane was you're giving yourself all this extra money to make the rebuild easier in a way. Even though you still have to solve the Harry Kane problem, you actually give yourself extra cash flow to sort of go after bringing in new midfielders, new center backs, new left back, new goalkeeper, the whole lot that we already needed. And that hasn't been done. So you now look at it, we've just sold Harry Kane and haven't really, to our knowledge, if we did spend the Kane money, then I don't know what the hell we had, originally, in the bank to spend on, because it seems like we did sort of spend what we normally spend in a window. So it's all very confusing here. But we are going to kind of get into some sort of kind of definitive answers here from the panel. We want definitive answers. We want, some sort of, type of some sort of rating, of some kind, from everybody on the panel before this, the clock strikes midnight. We do have a member chat here from Michael as well. Big up to you, Michael, member for 16 months. He says, how the F did we go into the 23-24 season with all 3 of Dyer, Davies, and Sanchez, the center back backups? Disgrace. Incomings I'm happy with, but outgoings absolutely embarrassing. Pretty sure we had a podcast with you nearly, 8 months ago or something like that. Michael, and I'm pretty sure the topic that Dave had selected for that one was outgoings and was, trying to ship out a lot of this deadwood and how can Spurs go about it. Looks like all that conversation, Michael, while it was a very good one and a very productive conversation, didn't seem like it was really taken, all that seriously, and didn't seem like any of what we wanted really did end up happening. So that just sort of speaks to the window. And yeah, Dave.
And this is my problem. Look, you sign Van de Ven, great. We've kept 2 clean sheets, but you get an injury or seen on Tuesday night, you take one of them out, you're back to more or less the same problems you saw last season, right? And it's sort of like, again, we just haven't fixed problems. We're still relying on some players that have come back and shown us over the last 4 years they don't have the quality to play this way. They had a chance after Pochettino left to take the mantle and be the main guys. They failed. We've now since signed players better. And when these guys step in and play with them, they don't have the quickness of thought, the footballing brain, or the technical ability to play with these guys. And they keep holding them back. You see it last season under Antonio Conte at the start of the season. We got off to our best ever start to a Premier League season. Everyone was calling for changes, saying Conte was stubborn for not changing it. Well, we got injuries, we got suspensions. He was forced to change it. What happened? We never recovered because of the drop-off in quality, because of the momentum that was killed, and everything else, because of these guys stepping in. And it was the same under Jose Mourinho. We were top of the league. They couldn't handle it, and we crumbled. Conte, whether you like him or not, he called it last year. A lot of these guys don't like to play under pressure. That's why pre-season, you see them as a player, as a certain type. Then the conversations start happening. Oh, maybe he's copped on from last year. He's a good player. Let's keep him. Back up, this, that, and the other. Then the backup comes in that people say keep. Then they go and blame the manager. We sack the manager. We go into a new cycle yet again. I hear the arguments about it's going to cost a lot of money to rip them up. Okay, but what about the lost money in revenue that we're taking from not being in European football because of these guys? The downgrading payments from the Premier League because of our league position finish last year. Not going deep in the cups like Tottenham Hotspur have always been famous for, because we get knocked out in the first round every single time. That's a loss in revenue. Then you take into account paying managers off and bringing in a new manager. Also then bringing in new players for them. The club is shelling out a fortune and these guys are being protected. Why? Why? It is cheaper now at this point to pay them up their contracts when you take into everything, all the finances I talked about. It is cheaper to pay these guys up at this point.
They need to get gone, Dave. And it feels like it's probably time to sort of get for some sort of conclusionary sort of, numbers, ratings. That's what I think we're going to get into now. Might as well just ask sort of the panel here what they sort of think of the window as a whole, what they would give it as a whole. Maybe we'll go for this sort of out of 10, the very ambiguous number of 1 to 10. Start with you, Paul. You haven't said anything in a while. What would you give it? Was your man Ange backed? And what would you give the rating
Paul,
if you could give a number to it?
No, I'm not going to give. I'm not going to give it a 10. But I agree with you about injuries. But even so, we're still better off than we were last year, because last year we were playing Dyer and we were playing Davies. So at least now we're a couple of injuries away from that sort of thing happening. I don't think Dyer features anywhere in the plans. I think Ange just sussed him out. Ange had to see all these players, like it or not. He had to know for himself. And I think it's a credit to him that he's worked them out so quickly, whereas previous managers have taken 5 or 6 games to work out that Eric Dyer is clueless and still haven't seen it then. At least Ange, okay, captain's armband against Barcelona. All right, you're crap. You're out. I'm not picking you again. So I'm going to give the window a 7. I'm happy with it. We could have done with a couple more, but I don't think it's bad. We're playing some really good football. We have got a little bit of cover here and there. And I think the players that we want to get rid of, it's not over yet, this window for them. And I think, as soon as a few players like Ndombele, Lloris and Dyer don't get squad numbers, they'll be begging the club to be released. So I'm happy. I think Ange has come into a shit fight, a complete dumpster fire, and to do what he's done in such a short period of time is incredible. We're flying high. We've got 7 points out of the first 9. I think it all bodes well. I'm happy.
I get that, Paul, but we were here under Conte. We were here under Jose Mourinho when he took over. People don't want to talk about that. Under Conte, he took over. We got Champions League. We started off last season with the best ever start to Premier League season ever. Under Jose Mourinho, we were top of the league. And what I'm saying is, there's always come a drop-off. And that's when the games start coming in and we pick up injuries and suspensions and we have to start putting some of these guys in. I get your point that some of them played in the 11 last year and now they're more or less on the fringes, which is great. But let's not forget, they will end up playing games. You know, people go, I'll keep them around as backup like they barely play. Go back and look at the amount of games they play as backups in this football team. It's a lot more than what people think. No one can control injuries. No one can control suspensions, and they do happen. It's the nature of the game. And I'm not getting ahead of myself this time because you know me, Paul. I love Ange Postecoglou, and I really want it to work out for the guy. But I've been around this mill too many times before. As Tottenham fans, we like to think, blame Jose Mourinho for everything that happened under him and that it's his fault, absolutely everything. We do the same with Antonio Conte, and we will not own up to the problems that are in front of us, and there is going to be problems. Look, there are positives from this window. I've already said. We've addressed the goalkeeper, brilliant. We've brought in Mickey van der Ven, superb. He's going to be a superstar. Madison, bringing him in for creativity, very good sign. I'm happy with bringing in Solomon as a bit of strength and depth on the wing. I'm happy. Ashley Phillips, I thought a good sign to get ahead of watching him in Dorrington is an absolute joy in the under-21s. We have made progress in that sort of area. However, it's been a disappointing end to this window. We again, like last summer, we've put ourselves in a good position early in the window to push on, giving yourself enough time to clear out the deadwood and go and get the rest, a couple more bits of business to give your manager the best chance going into a Premier League season. And yet here we are again, underwhelmed, still light at centre-back, still light up front as a proper backup to Richarlison. And it's going to come back to haunt this manager. And it's not going to be me that's going to be sitting there calling for the manager's head when I know what the problems are. Yeah. But many fans out there will call for the manager's head. And I don't want to hear anyone say they won't. They've done it under Jose Mourinho. They've done it under Conte. If you're not winning games of football, fans turn on the manager. And it doesn't matter whether you sit there and talk about, well, look, Davies has come in for 10 games on the trot. Of course, he's a downgrade from Edozie. It doesn't matter. People will turn around and say, well, he's an international player. He plays for Wales. A manager should be getting better out of him. That's what you will hear. And I don't want to hear that anymore under any other manager. I don't want to hear it under Ange Postecoglou, especially because he plays such sexy football. But there will be a drop-off, and we will take a hit for the mishaps in this window. Mark my words. People told me last year, stop moaning, Dave, this, that, and the other. 3 months down the line, they were all preaching what I said 3 months before that. And I don't want the same situation to happen again.
No, you don't want
I agree with you, man. I think there definitely would be a drop-off. No, I'm not arguing that at all. But it's a drop-off from up here this time. Last year when we started the season, I don't know about you people, but I had the feeling that we were being really lucky nicking results and we were playing horrible football. At least this year, we're going out there and we're deserving to win. So, yeah, we're up there at the moment. You're right, a couple of injuries and we come back down to here, but I still think we're better. We're in a better state than when we came into the summer. So that's why I'm happy. I'm optimistic. And injuries haven't happened yet. And every team gets injuries. We don't know what's going to happen. But when the injuries do happen, we're still going to be a bit better off than last year.
What would you give it, Dave?
David, I agree what you said. The thing that really irks my angst is the fact when there's certain terms that come out that really get me going, right? We are Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, one of the richest clubs in the world. And we talk about a word which really annoys me, backups. Tottenham Hotspur shouldn't be talking about backups. We should have enough quality that we're changing like for like out of our first 11. Now, our recruitment has improved. We know that. We've got Udogie, we've got Saar. We know that. We've got Van der Ven. We know that's improved. But as soon as you talk backup, to me, that smells weakness, lack of progression from the team, because we're talking backup. Oh yeah, he will do his backup. Really? Now I don't mind if we've got Romero and Van der Ven as our two-man centre-backs, and we brought in a Tapsoba or Adebayo or another, and then we had, like, say, Ashley Phillips as fourth choice, that's fair enough. When you're trying to, like, juggle your back four over a season of 40 games when you can give the others games. And that's the reason you can seduce them to come into the club. You can say, well, look, if you come in and you're going to be, we've got two world-class centre-backs, for example, and we can let you come to our club, but we've got 40 games a season, you'll get them because players will be in the red zone, players will be suspended, and like players will get injured, you'll get X amount of games. So because Man City do it, they can do it. It's not just wages. It's not just wages, right? It's a question of, like, you've got to convince players that you'll come, and the fact you have to convince them, look, we want to win. We want to win trophies. We want to leagues. We want to win cups, right? But don't hit me with the word backup, because backup is weak. It's crap, right?
I agree.
Dave.
It's rubbish, right? You want quality. You want same quality, and at least if it's 4 centre backs, you want at least 3 quality centre backs, and then maybe a youngster, an academy player, a Dorrington or a Phillips. That's what you want as the fourth one, right? And you can rotate. Look what City had done. It wasn't so long ago. Stones couldn't even get a game in that team. He couldn't get a game, right? And now he's come through. He's obviously given the hard graft, and he's earned his place.
Definitely. Dave, I'm gonna need a number for you before we end off, though.
Yeah, look,
I'll give you a 6.
I'm gonna say a 5. I think. Look, my worst fear has come to fruition. I think, we've strengthened some areas, but weakened ourselves in other areas, if you want me to be brutally honest. And I think, the same old problems with not having enough strength and depth in key areas of your squad, through the spine of your squad, I think will come back and haunt us at some point. So for me, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 on this one, Jack.
Yeah, I'm sort of at a 5 as well. The outgoings are completely the opposite of what I anticipated at the beginning of this window. I sort of saw Michael's comment that the outgoings are pretty much a 1. I would kind of agree for the most part. I think the only outgoing that I was pretty impressed by was actually the Harry Winks one of all. That was one that I thought was pretty sound business, actually, on our part. I was pretty impressed by that. But Harry Kane going, I mean, I'm not going to be happy about that at the end of the day. And then the fact that, the 3 or 4 guys that I labeled as the usual suspects, the ones that pretty much ruined our season last season with how much pain we had to go through, are all still here. You have Dyer, Sanchez, Lloris, and Davies all sticking around at the club. For me, at least, I think I said at least 3 out of 4 of those needed to be gone by the end of this window, and all of them are still here. I don't think you can give that any higher than a 1 or a 2, in my opinion, because those were the ones that were pretty much the highest up everybody's list when it came to the outgoings. And the outgoings, I think, are just as important as the incomings, because the outgoings meant that we could bring in more incomings. We were held hostage this summer by actually needing to get rid of players in order to bring in players, just because of squad registration. We need to be able to register players, and we couldn't because we had so much dross that was deciding to stick around, and Spurs weren't being ruthless enough about it. The incomings, though, I'm with everybody else in the panel here. I'm actually happy with all the signings that we have made. I probably would have asked for maybe 1 or 2 more extra signings, a backup left back, and maybe another center back in there too, and maybe another midfielder if a Højbjerg left. But I still think with Bentancur coming back from injury, that actually we are going to look a little stronger in midfield than we might think. I just feel like, 5 out of 10 is probably right for me, Dave. And I think we'll sort of end it there and call it a night. And at some stage, we will probably find ourselves, in the season going, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? But that's sort of why we had this conversation tonight. And also, I agree with your final point there that let's not, find ourselves 4 or 5 months down the road saying, oh, why isn't Ange doing better with this player? Why isn't Ange doing better with this or that? I mean, this is the same thing we've had with other previous managers. They didn't get the full backing. They didn't get everything that they needed in that window in order to really kickstart the right way. So let's not throw them under the bus once the pressure kind of at some stage does come. Let's give Ange the benefit of the doubt. And let's remember, that maybe we didn't feel like he got the full backing that he really, deserved in order to be truly successful. But I still think Ange is going to be successful this year, despite maybe certain things that he wasn't given, that I think he should have been given, absolutely should have been given. I still think he will be successful this year. And I still think there will be a lot of real highs, but there will be some lows. And the reason there will be some lows is because of the lack of business that we've done in certain areas, I think, this summer. And I think I'll leave it
I'm
at that.
confident he will get us playing a continuous attack style of football, which we have longed for.
Look, the style of football, absolutely brilliant. But where did that style of football go on Tuesday night? And this is what many people overlook. We're getting carried away with the first 11. But when some of them players step in, that style of football goes out the window. And you're going to see pretty much, you know what I seen Tuesday night? Reminded me of what I seen under Conte at times, what I seen under Jose Mourinho at times. I was told it was style of play. I told people all along, well, it's not style of play. It's down to the quality of your players. You can't implement any style of play if your players can't do the basics of football. And that's the biggest problem. The style of play, I enjoy. I love what Postecoglou has brought. But how can he maintain it with players coming in as backup that proved Tuesday night? They can't play football. It's that simple. But look, we will end it there. We will call it a night. It's been a long day here today. Transfer deadline day is officially done. Once again, it's another window where, Tottenham, sadly, we've done some good work in this transfer window. What is sad about it is what we haven't done overshadows the good that we have done yet again. And that's the same thing nearly every single window. Same last summer, same the summer before that. And it's just getting very, very, very frustrating. But look, we're going to call it there. I'll see you all back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. for the pre-match build-up, where we can talk about more fun things. The starting 11, the proper starting 11 is back. We'll make Ange Postecoglou fake 9 changes tomorrow. And if he wins, I wonder will we ask the same questions about making 9 changes. Let's wait and see. But look, Paul, sorry, just quickly, outrooted me. Where can people find you, my man?
You can find me on the Hotspur Hippie. It's a YouTube channel.
What's going on over there?
I do videos. I do a bit of streaming. And thanks for having me on. I'll see you later for the build-ups, man.
Yeah, I'll see you in a while for the pre-match build-up, my man. You're mad, man. Paul got he's got a deadline day finish and a match all in the same day over in Australia. Absolutely love it.
The world is round, man.
Everyone, please do get over and subscribe to Hotspur Hippie. Smash the subscribe on the YouTube channel. He's growing really, really quickly, so you want to be a part of that and jump on board. Adrian, my man, it's been an absolute pleasure having a discussion with you this evening, brother. Really appreciate your time and you coming on as well. Some great conversations there about tactics and also about, the style of play of Brennan Johnson and that. I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you for your time, my man.
Thank you for the invite, David. And I just hope I've been able to offer something of interest to the conversation. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course, my man. Of course.
You're great guys. You're great guys. Like I say, I follow your show. You're doing great. You're growing exponentially as you should. And I don't see it stopping. I just see it going and going and going. So great stuff for you. If people want to find me, they can find me on X, Twitter, or whatever they call it now, under my handle. I don't know if it shows up here. But and there's a link to my group. I run a page for about 12,000 Spurs fans.
Nice.
We do okay. I mean, but that's just for those that can be asked to actually use Facebook. You know what I mean? So fair enough. If people are interested, come along or not. I'm not a podcaster. I don't podcast. It's not my interest. It's not my sort of comfort zone like it is for you guys. And besides, there's more than enough podcasters out there. So and good luck to them because they're all well-intentioned Spurs fans. So good luck to them.
Yeah, everyone, Adrian Schrocke is at Adrian_Schrocke on so make sure you get over to that on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Now in 2023, get over there and make sure you subscribe to that. But guys, that's it from us. We will be back tomorrow, 11 a.m., hopefully on to bigger and better things and returning to winning ways with smiles on our faces. That's what it's all about. So I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has tuned in, stuck with us over the course of this transfer window. It's been a long one. I'm off to just relax for an hour until tomorrow's game. So thank you for tuning in, everybody out there. I really do appreciate it. I want to say, lastly, a thank you to Leighton, Evelyn, Al Ben, Moondog, Chris as well, Michael as well, and Paul Markey. Oh, big up Paul Markey. Actually missed this. He says, faced it, Kane wanted out. 100% grand, but it doesn't mean the club can't have a succession plan to bring someone else in. And imagine that. You know, we were told everyone else would chip in with Ghost, and why since then have we sold Kane? Everyone's talking about we need a striker. I told everyone if you're going to sell Kane, you need a striker. I get it. I do get it, Paul Markey. But it doesn't mean we can excuse the club for not bringing one in or having a succession plan, in my opinion. But big up, Paul Markey. Look, come and join me tomorrow, Paul Markey. We'll have that discussion. We'll continue on tomorrow, my man. Big yourself up. But guys, that is it from us. We'll see you all back here tomorrow. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. The double's on.
Come on, you Spurs.
In the big end, we trust. Come on, you Spurs.
Never stop.
Everywhere we go.